On May 27, 2011, in the San Francisco Bay Area, Michelle Lee, a 26-year-old nursing student, suddenly vanished after leaving Kaiser Permanente Hospital in Hayward, California, where she was interning. What happened to the young student? Join us as we explore this case filled with strange and mysterious developments. Michelle, a diligent and punctual young woman, was enrolled in the nursing program at Samuel Merritt University and was just 6 months away from graduating. She grew up in San Diego in a large Vietnamese-American family with her father, mother, brother Michael Lee, and cousin Christine Din.
Here we are in Santa Barbara Beach. We're having lots of fun, and here's my brother.
When her mother passed away, Michelle, then only 20, became a pillar for her family. She taught her siblings to drive, cooked meals, and was always ready to offer advice. Determined to fulfill her mother's dream, Michelle patiently waited 5 years to be accepted into the nursing program at Samuel Merritt University. With outstanding academic performance, she was considered one of the brightest students, consistently earning A grades and admired by colleagues for her dedication. That day, Michelle was working a rotation in the maternity ward. Around 6:55 p.m., she told a colleague she was going to her car to get something and would return shortly. However, she never came back. By 9 p.m., as the shift neared its end, Michelle's instructor noticed she hadn't signed out and was unreachable by phone. Concerned, the instructor and security staff checked the parking lot, but Michelle's car was gone. Moments later, they saw her white Honda SUV return to the lot. But when the instructor waved, the vehicle abruptly reversed and sped away at high speed. This behavior was entirely out of character for Michelle, prompting the instructor to immediately call 911 to alert the police. The next morning, Michelle's car was found, locked and neatly parked on Ponderosa Court, about a 10-minute walk from the hospital. Inside, police discovered her laptop and an ID card from Samuel Merritt University that didn't belong to Michelle. The card's owner had reported it missing just days earlier. Meanwhile, Michelle's family and friends began frantically searching for her. They emphasized that her sudden disappearance without any notice was highly unusual. Colleagues at Kaiser Permanente described her as someone who always smiled, was eager to help, and never shied away from hard work. Michelle's abrupt disappearance not only shocked her family, but also left the community where she studied and worked in disbelief. After Michelle's disappearance, her family, living 8 hours away in San Diego, immediately traveled to Hayward to join the search. Over 100 volunteers, along with friends and colleagues, formed search teams that scoured the area. Police began their investigation at the hospital parking lot, where they discovered blood at the spot where Michelle's car had been parked. This raised concerns that the case was more than a simple disappearance. Another clue emerged from a call to the hospital's emergency room about 30 minutes after Michelle left. The caller, claiming to be Michelle, requested to speak with her instructor, saying she was driving around the city looking for her father, who was having a heart attack. However, when police checked, Michelle's father was in Vietnam and perfectly healthy. Police contacted Michelle's friends and family to gather more information. They learned she had planned to go to Reno with friends the next day, but never showed up. Meanwhile, Michelle's phone began sending a series of strange messages to her brother, friends, and family, with contents like, "I'm fine, my phone is malfunctioning," or, "I need to rest, don't contact me." These messages were repetitive and emotionless, leading police to suspect someone else was using Michelle's phone. Unwilling to wait solely on the police investigation, Michelle's family hired a private investigator and offered a $20,000 reward for any information leading to her whereabouts. The reward later increased to $50,000 and eventually reached $100,000. Police continued examining Michelle's car and found additional blood. Based on the amount of blood discovered, authorities informed the family that the case had shifted from a missing person investigation to a homicide investigation, though Michelle's body had not yet been found.
Almost a week has passed and still no sign of Michelle Lee, a 26-year-old California nurse who seems to have vanished after going to her car at a hospital. The car later found on this street. The search now by leaflet.
I just want her home.
Meanwhile, police in Hayward, California are talking to police in Fairfield about an unsolved murder last year of Nurse Fong Lei.
They have the same last name, that they are both nursing students, that they both disappeared mysteriously.
But in Fairfield, the car was unlocked.
In our case, the vehicle was secured. It was locked up, as if the last person to drive that vehicle wanted to make sure that the interior was protected.
Now, police in Hayward are examining more surveillance footage, hoping one camera got a good look at Michelle Lay's car. Her brother says it is not like his sister to lose contact.
She always calls me that it's Mother's Day, and I should call my grandma.
Now a reward for information about missing Michelle, with word going out, one poster at a time.
During the investigation, police asked Michelle's family and friends about any conflicts in her life. One name stood out, Giselle Esteban, an old friend from high school. Michelle and Giselle had once been close, attending Mount Carmel High School in San Diego together, and later moving to San Francisco for college. However, their relationship had soured in recent years, largely due to Giselle's jealousy over Scott Marasigan, Michelle's ex-boyfriend and the father of Giselle's daughter. Michelle and Scott had briefly dated before Scott began a relationship with Giselle. Although Michelle and Scott remained only friends, Giselle suspected they were secretly involved. After Giselle and Scott broke up, she became increasingly obsessed, blaming Michelle for the breakup. Giselle and Scott shared a daughter, but their relationship was tumultuous. In August 2010, Scott gained custody of their child, infuriating Giselle, who then moved to Hayward to be closer to her daughter. During this time, she continued sending threatening messages to both Scott and Michelle, accusing them of an affair behind her back. Police interviewed Giselle, and she made no effort to hide her hostility toward Michelle. She called Michelle a homewrecker and said she had asked Michelle to stay away from her daughter. However, Giselle denied any involvement in Michelle's disappearance, appearing angry yet attempting to show concern.
We heard about Michelle. Michelle?
Oh God, what about her?
She went missing.
And have you guys tried calling her? I have no idea how to help you with that one. I've actually been trying to look for her.
Since when?
Almost a week now, to tell her to stay away from my daughter.
In talking to her friends and such, we understand that you guys had a tumultuous relationship.
A tumultuous relationship? She was my best friend who slept with my then fiance.
Her demeanor during the interview was cold and emotionless, raising police suspicions. They began monitoring Giselle more closely, even attaching a tracking device to her car to monitor her movements. Investigators also spoke with Scott, who was participating in the search and appeared worried and distraught. He showed police the messages Giselle had sent him, which included insults and threats. Giselle had not only harassed Scott but also targeted his family. The venomous messages Giselle had previously sent to Michelle and Scott further fueled suspicions. One message to Michelle read, "If you were really my friend or Scott's, you'd stay away from my family. You're just a homewrecker, following me to San Francisco because you have nothing better to do." Another message sent to both called them parasites and threatened that they would get what they deserved. These clues made Giselle the primary suspect in the eyes of the police. Police continued to dig into the evidence. They investigated how the ID card found in Michelle's car was stolen and ended up there. A critical breakthrough came from surveillance footage at Samuel Merritt University, where Michelle studied. On May 26th, the day before Michelle's disappearance, Giselle was seen wandering the campus, posing as a student. Dressed in a white lab coat and holding the stolen ID, she loitered around classrooms. The footage captured her checking a teacher's desk schedule, which contained details about Michelle's work shifts. This suggested Giselle had planned to track and monitor Michelle's schedule. The ID found in Michelle's car belonged to another student who was on vacation when it was stolen. Police found Giselle's fingerprints and DNA on the card, supporting the theory that she used it to access restricted areas in the hospital or university. Additionally, phone location data showed Giselle's and Michelle's phones were in the same area at the time of Michelle's disappearance. Later, Giselle was recorded at a Chuck E. Cheese restaurant, where she responded to a flurry of messages from Michelle's phone. These messages, sent en masse to Michelle's friends and family, contained fabricated content meant to mislead. Police also uncovered other suspicious behavior by Giselle. The day after Michelle's disappearance, she visited an Apple store to unlock an iPhone, claiming her daughter had accidentally locked it. Police believe this was Michelle's phone, which Giselle used to send the fake messages. Furthermore, Giselle's computer search history revealed queries such as causing a heart attack without leaving traces, tracking someone without being detected, and toxic gases like potassium chloride. These searches occurred just before and after Michelle's disappearance, indicating a carefully planned intent to commit a crime. Meanwhile, Scott Marasigan reported finding Michelle's phone in his car, suspecting Giselle had planted it to frame him. The tracking device on Giselle's car showed she frequently drove by Scott's house, further supporting the theory that she was attempting to divert the investigation. These pieces of evidence gradually painted a clear picture of Giselle's involvement. Giselle Esteban's jealousy toward Michelle Lee stemmed from the complex relationships among her, Michelle, and Scott Marasigan. Giselle and Scott began dating after Michelle and Scott ended their brief relationship. Despite Michelle having no intentions beyond friendship with Scott, Giselle was consumed by the belief that Michelle was trying to interfere in her life. After the birth of their daughter, Giselle and Scott's relationship grew strained, marked by multiple breakups and reconciliations. Giselle frequently accused Scott of cheating with Michelle, despite no evidence to support her claims. In 2010, when Scott gained custody of their daughter, Giselle spiraled into emotional instability. She moved to Hayward to be closer to her child, but her anger and jealousy intensified. Giselle began sending hateful messages to Michelle, calling her a homewrecker and threatening to make her pay. A recording provided by Scott to the police revealed the extent of Giselle's obsession. In it, she screamed, "If you're not honest about Michelle, I'll take your life and hers. This is the last time. Do you understand?" The threat was made with their daughter in the back seat, highlighting Giselle's loss of control.
I asked you, can we just be honest about Michelle? Because she's the one issue that I really, really am having a hard time dealing with.
That's not what you said at all.
Yes! Okay,
We
well
didn't
then
talk for
fine.
days.
Starting from now, we are going to be honest about Michelle. Do you understand me?
Okay.
Whether you sleep with her, whether you share food with her, whether you talk to her, you will be honest with me. Look at me! You will be honest with me regarding her. Otherwise, I will take your life and hers.
Mom.
And you can take that to the grave with you.
Why?
Why? Because you lied about her so many times, it's hard to believe that you didn't sleep with her and knock her up. You deserve to die for your lies, as does she. And you will. If you do it again, this is your last and final warning.
Why?
Do you understand me? It's your last and final warning.
Police also learned that Giselle had been diagnosed with severe depression and bipolar disorder. She frequently showed up unannounced at Scott's home, sometimes sneaking in and sitting silently in a room until discovered. Just before Michelle's disappearance, a court issued a restraining order barring Giselle from contacting Scott and his family. This seemed to push Giselle to a breaking point, fueling her malicious plans. Combined with her threatening messages and suspicious search history, it became clear that Giselle's jealousy had evolved into an intent to cause harm. In February 2011, while pregnant with her second child, Giselle grew even more erratic, relentlessly sending abusive messages to Michelle and Scott, calling them dreamless and parasites. 3 days before Michelle's disappearance, Giselle contacted a mutual friend, requesting Michelle's new address under the pretense of needing it for a restraining order. The friend refused, but this action showed Giselle was meticulously preparing to confront Michelle. Giselle's jealousy and obsession not only destroyed their friendship, but also led to a carefully calculated criminal plan.
At one point, you and Michelle were close friends, is that right?
Consider her my sister.
And then, what happened?
She made a mistake. Scott made a mistake.
And then, was that when you were with Scott? Or had you guys broken up? Or
No, we were still together. They made the mistake twice.
were you surprised to see Michelle there?
Yes.
How did it make you feel when you saw her?
At first, surprised, and then annoyed, and then I thought, okay, keep your blood pressure down, otherwise you're going to lose this baby.
On September 7, 2011, Giselle Esteban was arrested on charges of first-degree murder after police found a significant amount of Michelle's blood on her shoes. Giselle's DNA was also discovered in Michelle's car, alongside phone location data and surveillance footage confirming her presence at key locations related to the case. Despite this, Michelle's body remained missing, leaving her family clinging to hope that she was still alive. They organized multiple search efforts with hundreds of volunteers, combing areas near the hospital and remote parts of Alameda County, where Michelle's phone last pinged.
Police in Northern California have arrested a high school friend of a nursing student missing for more than 3 months. Jail records indicate that Giselle Esteban is being held on suspicion of murder.
Our primary concern was, is, and will always be to find Michelle and bring her home with us. At this point, she is still missing, and we will fight to bring her home every day until we have her with our family again.
The reality is we don't have Michelle. That's a piece we're not going to close out on until we find her, until her location is known.
On September 17th, a group of volunteers discovered human remains in a remote area about 12 miles from Giselle's home. Due to decomposition, the body's identity and gender could not initially be determined. After dental records and DNA analysis, police confirmed it was Michelle Liu. The cause of death could not be established due to the body's condition, but the blood found in Michelle's car and on Giselle's shoes suggested she may have been attacked with a sharp object. This discovery marked a heartbreaking turning point, extinguishing the family's hope of finding Michelle alive. Police began building a case against Giselle, supported by compelling evidence. Surveillance footage showing her stalking Michelle, DNA in the car, blood on her shoes, and fake messages sent from Michelle's phone. They also found that Giselle had attempted to mislead the investigation by planting Michelle's phone in Scott's car to frame him. Her repeated drives past Scott's house, recorded by the tracking device, further confirmed her intent to deflect blame. Meanwhile, Michelle's family grappled with unbearable grief. Her brother Michael shared that Michelle was the sister who always cared for everyone, and losing her felt like losing a piece of the family's soul. They continued volunteering to support other missing persons cases, hoping to keep Michelle's memory alive. Though Giselle was in custody, questions about how she committed the crime and what happened in Michelle's final moments remained partially unanswered. Giselle Esteban's trial began in October 2012, drawing significant attention from the public and media. Charged with first-degree murder, Giselle pleaded not guilty, claiming Michelle's death was an accident. Her defense attorney argued that Giselle was under immense psychological strain due to the restraining order from Scott, the loss of custody of her daughter, and her pregnancy. According to Giselle, she only intended to confront Michelle in the hospital parking lot to resolve their conflict. But the argument escalated out of control, leading to an impulsive act. She claimed it was voluntary manslaughter, not premeditated murder. However, the prosecution countered that all evidence pointed to a deliberate attack. They presented Giselle's search history on methods to cause harm without leaving traces, surveillance footage showing her stalking Michelle, and her use of a stolen ID to access the victim's areas. The prosecution emphasized that Giselle had meticulously planned the crime, from tracking Michelle's schedule to sending fake messages to cover her tracks. The significant amount of blood in Michelle's car and on Giselle's shoes indicated a violent attack, not an accident. Throughout the trial, Giselle showed no emotion, often staring blankly at Michelle's family. She offered no apology or remorse, leading the judge and jury to describe her as cold and devoid of humanity. The prosecution portrayed Giselle as a psychopath, noting that she had laughed while discussing killing in a recorded conversation. The jury ultimately found Giselle guilty of first-degree murder, rejecting her manslaughter defense. This verdict was based on the overwhelming evidence and her unrepentant demeanor. On December 12, 2012, Giselle Esteban was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for first-degree murder. The judge remarked that this was one of the most compelling cases he had ever seen, criticizing Giselle for showing no remorse. He emphasized that for any future parole consideration, Giselle would need to develop a profound sense of remorse, something she had never displayed. During the sentencing, Giselle remained cold and silent, leaving the courtroom without a word. Later, she gave birth to a baby boy in prison, though the father's identity was not disclosed, and Scott Marasigan confirmed he was not the father. Michelle's family faced unrelenting grief. Her brother Michael choked back tears as he spoke of his sister's dream of becoming a nurse, inspired by their late mother. He described Michelle as not just a sister, but the light of their family. "My sister is with our mom now, and one day, I'll see them again." These words reflected the enduring faith and love the family held for Michelle. Though justice had been served, they felt an irreparable loss. Michelle's uncle, Amira Mesa, shared that the family hoped for a life sentence without parole, fearing the possibility of Giselle's release. The prospect of Giselle being eligible for parole in 2029 caused anxiety, as each hearing would reopen their wounds. The family channeled their pain into action, continuing to participate in missing persons campaigns and raising community awareness. They wanted Michelle's legacy to inspire unity and mutual support. Christine, Michelle's cousin, said Giselle's crime only exposed her own malice while highlighting Michelle's beauty and kindness. Despite losing their loved one, the family held on to the belief that Michelle was with her mother and that they would one day reunite. The Hayward community was deeply shaken by the case. At Samuel Merritt University, a scholarship in Michelle's name was established to support students facing hardships. Michelle was remembered as an outstanding student, a devoted friend, and a cherished family member. The case served as a warning about the consequences of jealousy and obsession, while underscoring the importance of mental health support for those showing signs of instability. Giselle Esteban, once Michelle's close friend, allowed baseless suspicions to drive her to an unforgivable crime. Will Giselle, after 25 years, be able to change and deserve parole? Or does justice for Michelle demand a lifetime of accountability? Whatever the answer, Michelle Lee's story will forever serve as a cautionary tale about the consequences of hatred and the power of love in overcoming adversity. What are your thoughts on this case? Please leave a comment and subscribe to our channel for more videos and to support our work. Thank you.